Probably just right back here.
Hernandez.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. Over the past few years, California has experienced the emergence of a new, unpredictable, and unfortunately a very deadly category of drugs called spice. Spice is a synthetic form of cannabis that is marketed as a safe, legal, alternative method to marijuana, which it's not. The chemicals in spice interact with the brain in a similar manner to marijuana, but can be up to 50 times as potent, and the effects are often, very often, unpredictable. Physically, spice induces agitation, anxiety, nausea, vomiting, elevated blood pressure, seizures, hallucinations, paranoid behavior, and non-responsiveness. And in some instances, sadly, it has resulted in death. In 2011, I authored SB 420 that banned a specific version of spice, but the industry circumvented the ban with various iterations through chemical iterations. While outlawing certain specific drugs might work initially, the ingenuity of the criminal mind ensures that new, potentially more dangerous drugs will take their place. This bill will expand the definition of a controlled substance analog, which chemically can change the structure, to include all substantially similar synthetic cannabinoid structures. This will allow California law to stay ahead of the consistently changing chemical structure of synthetic marijuana. I have with me today the Eckerts, who tragically lost their son Connor to a spice overdose, and I'd like to have them say a few words. And with that, Madam Chair and members, I respectfully ask for an aye vote. I'd like to turn it over to the Connors.
Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Thank you. Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the Senate Public Safety Committee. My name is Devin Eckhart, and this is my wife, Veronica. And for very personal reasons, we're here in support of SB 1036. We want to take a moment to thank Senator Hernandez and his staff for taking on this critical issue of synthetic drugs. And we thank you for the time and effort you've dedicated to this bill since we met early last year. We appreciate the committee for considering this critically important issue, the deadly and growing epidemic of synthetic drugs. My wife, Veronica, myself, my family, tragically know all too well the devastating impact of synthetic drugs, which SB 1036 seeks to address.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. In July of 2014, our 19-year-old son, Connor, was a bright, vibrant young man going to college on a snowboarding team, playing the guitar, played competitive soccer, played football, loved his family, traveled all over the world, giving compassion, bringing food and hope to other people. He was really your all-American young people person. Synthetic drugs cross all socioeconomic barriers. They're not for the poor or the rich, or I should say they're not just for the poor or the rich or the in-between. They're for all people. Here's a photo of our family that was taken. Can you grab that, Devin? Grab both of those in the hospital. Here's a photo of our family July 2014. This is the very last photo ever taken of our family. We had no idea when we took that photo that night. A little more than a week later, Connor was with a new friend and made the seemingly innocent decision to try something called Spice, or K2. These products are sold at our local gas stations, convenience stores, smoke shops that you notice in every single strip mall now, card shops, gift shops, beach shops. This photo, a week later, our son was pronounced brain dead from a singular hit of a synthetic drug called Spice. At the time when this happened, we obviously didn't know, nor did Connor, about Spice or the dangers or the proliferation of these deadly synthetic drugs that are invading our communities, now referred to NPSs, new psychoactive substances. However, since the death of our son, we have met far too many parents who have also lost their children to synthetic drugs like Spice or fentanyl, which is also a synthetic. And through our outreach and education efforts, we have literally communicated with hundreds of thousands of people throughout California, across the United States, and literally around the world. These people have also been destroyed by these new psychoactive substances who come into our country. There has been no real punishment whatsoever for these people who are selling these products.
Just as a quick sidebar, due to the overwhelming outcry in response to Connor's story going very public through things like social media, news broadcasts, radio broadcasts, TV, literally around the world, we've had the opportunity to communicate with millions of people on the subject. We've been interviewed by most of the major news outlets across the country, some even international. Our Facebook posts on this subject have regularly reached 2 to 5 million people at a time, with one post reaching even over 37 million people. You'll hear that this synthetic products, often referred to as fake marijuana or synthetic marijuana, fake pot. We think those terminologies are extremely misleading and confusing of the issue. This is nothing like marijuana, and we don't want to confuse today's bill on the topics of marijuana at all. However, these poisons are far more deadly, more addictive, and stronger than even things like PCP, crack, and heroin. According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, and from what we've learned from speaking to others who've been harmed by these drugs, synthetic cannabinoids and other formulas like it cause a myriad of side effects that are quite horrific, some of which Senator Hernandez outlined. It's very unpredictable. It's very hard to tell by what's going on, whether it's heart failure, kidney failure, vomiting, psychosis, or a mild high, really what a person is on. And the problem's getting worse. You may recall this past November, in one day alone, 13 people ranging in age from 13 to 45 were taken to San Diego emergency rooms due to the use of synthetic drugs. And then right here in Sacramento, just a couple of weeks ago, as has been referenced, we learned that 28 people overdosed and 9 people died from synthetic fentanyl. We object even to the use of overdose because any amount of a synthetic drug can be lethal, as is proven by Connor's singular hit. Poison control centers across the country saw a 229% increase in the phone calls related to the use of synthetic drugs in just the first half of 2015. The issue and the problem of synthetic drugs is getting worse, and something must be done. The DEA reports that hundreds of new synthetic drug compounds have appeared on the streets in the last few years, sometimes experiencing as much as a new synthetic form a week. We've spoken to emergency room doctors and nurses throughout California and across the country who've told us they've seen an alarming increase in the patients presenting with synthetic-related symptoms. And because these drugs do not show up in the typical drug and alcohol test, it makes it extremely difficult for medical professionals to know what they're dealing with and how to treat. In California and across the country, lawmakers have sought to address the problem of synthetic drugs by passing laws against the chemicals contained in them. And while those efforts are good, the problem is that the illicit drug manufacturers, the underground chemists, are constantly altering the formula just by singular molecules to skirt the law. And tragically, they're working faster and more effectively than we are on the legislative side. They always seem to stay a step ahead of us. We need specific laws addressing this, and I would say, and consequences that will deter. Despite the prior conversation on the last bill, if consequences are severe enough, particularly dealers and manufacturers and distributors will think differently. Problem is we don't have severe enough consequences to deter the sale and distribution of any and all synthetic cannabinoids, and I would include under that synthetic cathinoids. They're killing and permanently damaging our youth and our adults.
You know, I've spoken to groups of thousands of people in the last year and a half since Connor passed away. And it's amazing because their lives change. But in this room right now, you can actually change lives. How many of you have children? Would you raise your hands? It's been 629 days since Connor died. 629 days. Most of you get to go home to your loved ones tonight. I don't get to go home to my son. As long as people pushing these drugs into our communities know that there is little or no consequences for their actions, and they do know this, we will continue to see the spread of synthetics and the terrible harm that they are bringing to our families and our youth and our communities. Statistics show that 1 in 9 high schoolers try or use synthetic drugs. You have the power to change this. We are asking you to take action. Thank you for your time and your consideration on this very important issue.
Thank you. And I do want to thank you for the work that you're doing in the community and for coming here today. Sometimes the best way to heal is to try to ensure that other people don't have the same tragic experience, but I very much appreciate the thought and the feelings that you're bringing here today and the ideas. Others in support.
Madam Chair and members, excuse me, I'm a little choked up. Rand Martin on behalf of Consortium Management Group. CMG operates Caliva, which is one of the largest medical marijuana businesses based in San Jose. I simply want to point out, remind the folks on the dais that last year you enacted a very comprehensive, very sweeping reform in medical marijuana, the Medical Marijuana Regulation and Safety Act. One of the primary goals of that act was to ensure the safety of the product that my client sells to consumers in San Jose and elsewhere. Unfortunately, something that presents itself as a safe alternative to what we sell that is safely provided to our consumers is really totally antithetical to the objective of that law that you enacted last year. We really encourage you to adopt SB 1036 and make sure that all of the products that have anything to do with marijuana or medical marijuana are as safe as possible for Californians. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, John Lovell on behalf of the Association for Los Angeles Deputy Sheriffs, the Association of Deputy District Attorneys, California Association of Code Enforcement Officers, California College and University Police Chiefs Association, California Narcotic Officers Association, Los Angeles County Professional Peace Officers Association, LA Police Protective League, and the Riverside Sheriffs Association, all in strong support of this bill. Members of this committee may recall that this very issue was featured on the cover of the cover story of Time magazine last year. This is a serious issue, and this bill is, we applaud the senator for bringing this bill forward.
Thank you. Others in support of the bill? Seeing and hearing none, speakers in opposition to the bill? You need to make room at the table for them. Thank you.
Good morning, Natasha Minsker on behalf of the ACLU of California. Respectfully, we are opposed to the bill as currently written. The statute at issue here includes phrases like substantially similar and represented as, and expanding that statute further gives us pause, raises concerns for us about potential overbreadth and vagueness. Dr. Hernandez's staff has been very willing to work with us, and if the bill moves forward, we are optimistic that we can find a solution. Thank you.
Thank you. Others in opposition?
Philippe Passagai on behalf of the California Public Defenders in opposition for the reasons previously stated.
Okay, thank you. Questions or comments from members of the committee? Senator Stone, Senator Anderson.
This is the Eckerts, and thank you for coming forward, and it was very courageous of you to come and give your testimony about your beloved son. We're very sorry about your loss. But it certainly cements our resolve that it's something that we need to do, and I commend Senator Hernandez for bringing this forward. I had a concern last year, and also while I was on the Board of Supervisors, that we have bath salts that are cathinone derivatives from Africa that are stimulants that we had some horrific cases of kids dying with bath salts, and these snake oil salesman chemists are always ahead of the curve because they modify what has been then outlawed by the DEA or FDA for that matter. And so this is a great attempt now to ensure that as these creative chemists get ahead of the curve, that they're covered by this blanketed bill. I learned recently that spice is the second most abused drug now on high school campuses. So there are more emergency room visits that are going to happen without this bill. And the way that you could administer the drug, as you probably know, you can take it in teas, you can put it in vaping devices, you can snort it. There are many ways without any kind of predictability as to what the outcome could be. And as in some cases, as we know, there's death. In 2011, which was the last statistic I saw, that we saw over 28,000 emergency room visits for just spice alone. And since then, we've seen newer congeners, newer forms of spice that are being marketed by stores and saying not for human consumption to protect themselves, but the sellers will tell a prospective user, this is safe because it's completely natural. Well, strychnine is a completely natural substance too, but I don't think I want to smoke it. So I want to commend the author for bringing this forward. I think this is going to save lives. And thank you very much for bringing forward. And again, my condolences to you, Mr. and Mrs. Eckert.
Senator, I'd like to be added as a co-author, and I'd also like to move the bill.
Thank you. The bill's been moved by Senator Anderson, and Senator Stone would like to be a co-author. I have just a few comments about the bill. As I read it, this is a definitional bill. We understand that these manufacturers are slightly changing things and then getting to sell a drug as being legal until we catch up with it in the legislative process, which unfortunately can take too long. So to me, this is a first step, and it is going in the right direction. Senator Anderson and I held some hearings on the expanded topic of opioids and the synthetic drugs that are being created a few years ago. And parents like yourselves came and talked to us about what happened to their children with different combinations of these things. And the plea was really for education and intervention. So I do see that this bill will at least get us a definition that will be useful and that will cover any new modifications of these drugs. But, and I guess the good news is that it's interesting that use is going down, even as some of the terrible situations, the tragic situations that this family faced are increasing, probably because young people are learning how terribly, terribly dangerous and irrevocable the consequences of even trying these drugs can be. So I think we have more work to do, but this seems to me a good step forward. If there's no other questions or comments, Senator Hernandez, would you like to close?
Madam Chair and members, thank you for the comments as well. Of course, my condolences go to the Eckarts, and I commend all the work that they've done to bring attention to this issue. A comment or a question was asked by the presenters was of those of you who are parents. Yes, we all are, and we cherish our children, and that's the most important thing in our lives. It's unfortunate that, you know, even though after the bill was signed into law, SB 420 in 2011, that there was various iterations of it. And because of that, hopefully this bill will resolve that so that we can stay ahead of the curve so that this entire product can be banned and made illegal. And unfortunately, it's because it's being promoted as an alternative to marijuana, which it's not. And you've seen the unintended consequences. So with that, members, I respectfully ask for an aye vote.
Thank you. Clerk, please read the roll.
Hancock.
Aye.
Hancock, aye. Anderson. Aye. Anderson, aye. Glazer. Aye. Glazer, aye. Leno. Aye. Leno, aye. Liu. Monning. Stone. Stone, aye.
Thank you. That bill is out, but we'll hold the roll open for the absent
Thank you, Madam
members.
Chair and members.
Thank you.